You're my favorite audience. I don't know you in person, but I know that we have one thing in common. We all work very, very hard every single day to make this world a better place for equal opportunities for men and women in the workplace. Do we all agree on that? I think so. Thank you. So you are my favorite audience. Also, we all realize, and this is what Dorothy just said, and I have to, okay, this was the wrong direction. All right. We all realize that, yes, progress is very slow, and the needle just isn't moving fast enough. This, of course, can be very frustrating, and we realize that every single day when we work. But of course, we're not here to mourn or to complain. We are here because we know that if we don't continue to do our work, nobody else will do it for us. So we just have to continue to do what we're doing. And of course, it's a lot of fun. We have a lot of energy to do that, and we will never get tired of doing it, not in 169 years. Just as one woman, Felice Schwartz, who founded Catalyst 55 years ago. So this has been a long time, and somebody just told me when I was having a conversation before the conference started, how long have we been doing that? It's not that long. And I said, well, Catalyst has been doing that for 55 years, so it's quite long. And yes, 55 years in regard to 169, it's not that much, but still, it is very slow. So Felice Schwartz was a nurse and mother back in 1962 who wanted to go back to pursue her career as a nurse and found it very hard for a woman who had a family. And not only for her, but also for all her girlfriends who faced the same barriers in the workplace. So it was the Kennedy era, the 1960s, and Felice did not ask what her country could do for her, but she said, I want to bring to my country's needs the unused capacities of educated women. This is what she wanted to do for her country. And this is what we still want to do today, right? We want to bring all talent to the workplace. We want to make all talent available to the whole workplace, the environment, the companies. And of course, the companies have at least recognized that they need to dig deep into the talent to really get the best results. But even though we all agree on that, there is still a lot of pitfalls and disbeliefs when it comes to what to do in order to get all this talent into your workforce, in order to use all this talent in your workforce. And one of these disbeliefs is the common wisdom that if just everybody works hard enough, and if women just do the same things and are as qualified as men and work as hard as men, they will advance just as fast as men do. I'm sure we have all heard that before, and I'm not going to ask you who agrees with it and who doesn't. But we know from experience and also from research that it is just not the case. It's not working this way. And when I talk about research, I'm talking about a longitudinal study here that Catalyst has been doing for 20 years now, with a big, big sample of 10,000 MBA graduates from 22 business schools around the world that have been followed throughout their careers and asked questions frequently. And when we look at these samples, we come up with 9 career strategies that have worked for some better than for others, but they have worked in some way. But the question is, who do they work for? If we take a look at these strategies, these are the 9 strategies. And you don't have to say it out loud or write it down, but when I'm going to ask you a question, what do you think, which are the top 3 strategies that work best for men? Here we go. Gain access to power, blur work-life boundaries, sad but true, still in 2017, and scan for opportunities outside your company. If we look again at the same strategies, what do you think are the top 3 strategies that work for women? The same or different ones? Here you go. Gain access to power, of course. Make achievements visible, the most important strategy for women. and scan for opportunities inside your company. And these two are related because men are often promoted for trust. He's a man. He just looked like the person who had the job before him, so he can do the job. While women always have to prove themselves and have to show that they are capable of doing these things. And I once met a woman at a conference dinner who was the CEO of a big company in the United States. It's a subdivision of a German company in the United States. And she was the CEO there. She had been the CEO for 3 years when we met. And she told me this story. She said, well, I've been doing this job for 3 years very successfully, and there was an even bigger opportunity that I wanted to throw my head in the ring for. And I talked to somebody that I trust and in whose advice I trust. And I told him, I want to take this next step. I want to move to this even bigger position. And he said, you need to wait a little longer. You need to be in your job for at least 5 years until you can move on. And she said, why? The guy who had my job before, he moved on after only 3 years, and his numbers were worse than mine. And he said, yes, I'm sorry, but he was a guy. So it's not only that we see it in research, we hear it, we see it, we might experience it ourselves, or we hear it from others. So when we look again what works for men and women, we see that it's not quite the same. So in this research, Catalyst not only looked at the career strategies, but also in the myths and in these common wisdom myths that we always say, well, yes, it's just because of this that it's taking longer for women, or it's because of that. And of course, we all know it's because of that. And I want to show you some of these myths and want to show you what research said that there is a different answer to that. And it's not always as black as white as we might think it is. So the first myth is, yes, women just have lower aspirations. That's why they're moving along slower than men. Might be true for some women, might be true for some men, but if we only look at those men and women who said at the beginning of their career, I want to be CEO one day. I have the highest aspirations possible. Even if you only look at these men and women still, like men, on level and pay from day one, and the gap grows over time. So it's not just about aspirations, and it's not that women in general have lower aspirations. Even those who have the highest aspirations are having a harder time in their job to advance than men do. Well, yes, but maybe it's because they deliberately seek the slower tracks. They want to move to the top, but they take more time. They need to feel more comfortable in their jobs until they move on. Might be true for a lot of women, might be true for some men too, but only if we look at the men and women who want to get ahead just as fast and who want to take this next step. Men take it more often, and women are less satisfied with the advancement of their career, with the pace of their career. So if women are less satisfied with the pace of their advancement or with how they get along, that shows us that they're not deliberately seeking the slower tracks, that they're not saying, oh yes, I'm a woman, I just take a little more time, I need to be more comfortable, and then I'm moving on. They're getting frustrated because they see these men moving ahead while they are still at the same level. And I often talk about these myths at conferences because it's really something that we are surprised about, that we don't talk about that often. And the last time I talked about these myths, I had a woman coming up to me after my speech, and she said, this is exactly what happened. I have been in this role for so long, and I wanted to do this and that. And then the guy who started working with me at the same time, who had the same experience, for him it just went so much faster than for me. And this is really frustrating. And it's not that I'm asking for it. It's not that I'm asking for the slower track. It's just happening, and it's really frustrating. So again, we not only see it from research, we also hear it and we see it in our environment and when we look at our colleagues and girlfriends. Well, I think the biggest one, and I'm from Germany, where people take a lot of time off when they have kids, where a lot of women, over 60% of mothers, work part-time. So of course it's all because of family and children, right? This is why women have a harder time to advance their career than men. Might be true for a lot of women, but the thing is, even if we only look at these women who do not have kids, who have never taken any time off at work, and we look at the same group of men who have never taken time off at work, women don't advance as fast as men do, and they don't make the same amount of money. And again, I had to experience this myself. When I was 32, I was asking for a promotion in my job, something that I had worked for so long. It was a position in another country, and I always wanted to go there. I had done everything. My boss had said, yeah, this is just for you, but you need to go to the executive director and tell him that you are interested in this job. And this job, I knew this job would become available 1 year later. So I went there and I said, well, this is what I want to do. I'm really passionate about it. I have done this and this and this. I have the qualifications. I want to let you know that I'm ready for this job. And the guy looked at me and he said, thank you for letting me know. It's really great that you feel so passionate about it and that you want to do this and that you have done all this work in order to get there. But you're a woman in your early 30s. I don't know what you're planning with your family, so we can't really send you abroad. Of course, it's illegal to say that. In Germany, it's illegal, and I think in most countries it's illegal. He still said it, and what could I have done? I mean, what I did was I quit the job a couple of months later because I thought, okay, in this company or this organization, I'm never going to move anywhere until I'm 45 and have proven, okay, I don't run away because I'm going to have children. So this is what we see and what happens to us all the time and what we really see as a big problem for women, no matter if we have children or if we don't. The next myth that we often hear is women are just not using the right strategies in order to get ahead. They're not proactive enough, and they're not asking for more. Well, again, it's not that women have to use the same strategies as men, and we saw that before, that there are different strategies that work in different ways for men and women. But what we see is, even if women do all the right things, make their achievements visible, which is very important because it's not seen as natural that women do this and that women get ahead. Even if they make it visible and they ask for more and they're applying for higher positions, we still don't see the same progress as we see in men, which is sad but true. And you can look all these myths, by the way, on the Catalyst website. It's the high potential study, and there are a lot of these myths out there. I only have 5 for you. Otherwise, it would take too long, but there are a lot more than these. Well, the last one, women have too few mentors. Can I ask you who of you has a mentor? Not just an official one, just when you think about it, is there somebody who you can go to and ask about your career? Okay, so there are quite a few. The thing is, women do even have more mentors than men. There have been so many programs in the past, and it's been really something that has been pushed along very hard. So women do have enough mentors. Some already speak that women are over-mentored or mentored to death, but what they are is they are under-sponsored because men have mentors that are at a higher level and are more likely not only to talk to them and to give them advice, because this is what a mentor does, but they have somebody who talks about them and who opens doors for them and who gives them the opportunity to show others what they are capable of. So they have more sponsors on a higher level, while women have these mentors that are very important. And of course, it's good when you get advice, but what you really need are sponsors that pull you up the career ladder and that push open these doors for you and that make others aware of what you do and what you're capable of. So this is another thing that we see. So we have all these programs, and we have all these the really good intentions that we have developed and that companies have developed. In fact, a McKinsey study showed a couple of years ago that when you look only at the big corporations, the really big ones, over 90% have something in place in order to help women to advance. They have a mentoring program or the development programs or coaching or whatever. 90%. How many percent do you think of the employees of these companies think that these measures are really effective? 13%. So 90% of companies have these programs, but only 13% of people think that they are really effective and that they really help women to advance. And again, if I come back to what I said in the beginning, we see that progress is really slow and that we're just not getting ahead the way that we really wanted to. Oh, I forgot, there's one more. Did I say 5? Okay. One more thing is that women don't take advantage of the important leadership opportunities. And this plays into what I just said, the programs, the development, all these official things. Women have it just as much as men, but once you finish a program, men climb up the career ladder much faster than women do. It takes much longer for women after a program to really advance their careers. And here I have a number for you. This is from the McKinsey study, that there are so many things in place, but that it is really still too slow. So the question is why? And is there a good answer to it? And has anybody ever looked if there is a good answer to it? Yes, there is. And this is another Catalyst study that was based on a model, the 70-20-10 model, which is much older, from the 1990s, from Lombardo and Eichinger. And they discovered that, yes, the career development programs are important, but not that much. They have asked people who were highly successful in their career, what have you done and what was the most important thing to advance you in your career? So 10% said, yeah, the programs were really important. It was really what got me ahead. 20% said it was the mentors and the access to the really good network. But 70% said it were the challenging opportunities, the projects that I did, the jobs that I did, where people got aware of me, where they saw, oh, this is somebody who really knows what he or she is doing, and this is somebody that we can give more responsibility. So it's really the projects that matter. And Catalyst has looked at this too. First of all, they looked at, okay, what does it really mean, projects? Does it mean that people are leading these projects? So they looked at the high potentials, the men and women MBA graduates, and they found that on average, 18 months after graduation, men and women are leading their first project. So that was still quite equal. But then, if you dig a little deeper and you look a little longer, you find that it's not only to lead a project, it matters what kind of project you are leading. And not all projects are created equal, of course. So what they saw is that men's projects have 3 times as many direct reports than women's projects, and twice as high a budget than women's projects. So the men's projects were bigger. They also had more visibility. The men's project had high visibility all the way to the CEO, to the top of the company, while the women's projects were on a lower level. The women's projects also involved less risk-taking, and they involved less international responsibility. This again was because many people thought, oh, these young women, we're not sure we can send them abroad. You never know what if their partner is getting along with it, if they want to have a family. So they were more resistant, while the women said, if I was asked to take on one of these projects, I would certainly do it. And I spoke to an executive about this, and I said, how do you handle this? And she really is a role model in so many ways. And she said, I always ask. I don't care what, or I don't, of course, I see the situation. And she told me of this lady that always wanted to lead a big project in China. And when the time was there that the project was starting and they would have needed somebody to lead it, the lady was pregnant with twins. And the executive that I talked to thought, oh, not sure she still wants to do it, but I'm going to ask her. So she went up and she said, well, your project, the one that you have been working towards for so long, is now starting to get along in China. Do you still want to lead it? And she said, yes, of course. I really thought you were never going to ask. And she said, okay, why did I have to ask? You could have told me. But anyway, so the good thing was that she did not make assumptions. She asked the lady if she still wanted to do the job. And I think this is really so important, that we don't just take things for granted, or we don't just make our own assumptions and say, well, because we have all this common wisdom, we believe in some myths, we just assume that things are a certain way, and this is what stands in our way so many times. So this is something that is really important, that we always ask people what they wanted to do and if they are still willing to do it, and not just make our assumptions. And summing that up for you, I have a few things to take away as an individual, what you can do as a woman in order to advance, or what you can tell women who want to advance. Make achievements visible. Question your own assumptions. It's not just about assumptions about others, it's the assumptions about you, what you can do in what situation. Take a risk. Seek challenging assignments, because this is what's really seen. Make your mentor a sponsor on as high a level as possible, and don't hide your aspirations. And as a leader, of course, you also have to question your own assumptions. You need to take a risk in somebody, act as a sponsor, and share feedback with the people. Empower them to really bring their best talent to work and not to hide anything, and encourage them to try every single day and move along. And I want to end with a pretty long quote, but I think it's worth reading it, about assumptions. That was said a couple of years ago by, at that time, the CEO of Ernst & Young, James Turley. So think about it, that our assumptions often hold us back, and they should not be in our way. Thank you very much.
Isabelle, thank you very much. That was great. Thank you very much.